Welcome to Tour de France from England. Yes, it's stage 2 today, Portsmouth. Back to Portsmouth. You've seen it on your screens, the route they're taking today. Stage 5, 117 miles, and here Indurain with his teammates begin to wind it up now, because we've got a breakaway group in front that went away very quickly indeed. After some 15 miles had been covered, 4 men went off into the lead, and those 4 men in the leading group at the moment: Pascal Herve, Giancarlo Perini, Van Hooijdonk and Lieti are the 4 men that went away just after the 15-mile point. And they've been taking up all the sprints so far. I'll give you a rundown on those in just a moment as we look at this bunch here to see who's been doing the chasing. Certainly GBMG went on the front. They had to do that because if you didn't catch up with your newspaper this morning, I can tell you Van Zelle is in the yellow jersey just by 4 seconds over his teammate Johan Museeuw. But in that breakaway group at the moment, Van Hooijdonk was 2 minutes 20 seconds down on the yellow jersey and didn't look like much of a threat, but when we went to the 100-kilometre point at Basingstoke, he was 2 minutes and 30 seconds ahead, so technically on the road at the moment. Van Hooijdonk, the lofty rider from the Word Perfect team, is the yellow jersey leader. And I say we have the GBMG team on the front. Here they are back again, having yet another go to try and pull back that deficit. We started this morning with just 184 riders. One rider that's dropped out, did not start this morning, was Steve Bauer. A great unfortunate to think that was for the bold Steve Bauer. He was having a very good ride indeed. He was lying in 6th place over on general classification, just 31 seconds down, but he's got a very bad bite on his leg and it's all swollen up. Don't know what's bitten him, but certainly he had a very bad bite. This is a rundown then on the climbs we've had so far. That was the one at Farlington Avenue. It went up very quickly indeed, just after the riders had covered about 5 miles out of Portsmouth. Nasty little sharp hill. Again, spectators sort of, what, 4 and 5 deep all the way up. And the long climb of Bishop Waltham, there, Hervé took that one for Perini and Van Hooijdonk. This was the breakaway group sorting things out amongst themselves. Lieti was over the climb in 4th place. And after that, they headed down out of the climbs and then went up in towards the sprints at Winchester. But the King of the Mountains award at the moment still going to De Klerk. We haven't got any more climbs today. The first 2 are quite early on, so De Klerk still there in the leader's jersey after taking that first climb of the day. Some delightful scenery they're going through. They've gone through Hampshire, but the sprints we'll give you later on in just a moment. But there they are, the field swarming now down in towards Portsmouth to finish the 5th stage of the Tour de France. These 4 leaders who went away after just 15 miles have been covered. Their efforts along the route are being well understood by the people. They've heard the public address vehicle going in front, telling them all what's happening. Of course, Channel 4's also been doing some live coverage, so they'll be looking at it in their houses and nipping out and having a good look at the racing going by. And I see here that Lieti's got a very, very small ponytail. It's much sort of plaited compared with the ones that Laurent Fignon and Robert Miller had worn. That's one thing about cyclists. They all have different hairstyles. Perini here has been perpetually bald ever since I've known it too, eh?
Unfortunately for Perini, it's not his chosen hairstyle. Unfortunately, Perini was not blessed to have his hair for very, very long. He's now bald. I know, as long as I know him. I've known him since 1986, and he's already practically bald then. So it's not his fault. It's not his choice if he hasn't got a pigtail. Actually, he has. Last year, if I remember, in Tour de France, he had a pigtail on the back of his head. But unfortunately, it didn't help any hair grow on the top of his head.
And one of the Belgian riders last year, I forget which one it was, actually had his hair shaved, and in the back of his head, like some of these people have some sort of shape taken out of the shaving of the head. It's become quite a sort of a pop thing to do. He actually had a shape of the Eiffel Tower in the back of his head. So that people could follow it, thinking, well, one day I should get there for real.
Well, the Swiss guy often does that, is Jogi Müller. He often, when he comes to Tour de France, he's so happy to have been selected for the Tour de France. Him being Swiss, he will often have on one side of his head. I've seen it in the past on 2 occasions. He would have had a Swiss flag coloured on one side of his head and the Eiffel Tower on the other side of his head. Or, for example, he was with PDM a few years ago and he had a Swiss flag on one side and PDM engraved on his head on the other side. It's a bit stupid, but it's like Jürgen's a dead nice guy. He's a real fan of cycling, and every year he's just so happy to be selected for one more time in the Tour de France, and he's so happy he goes out and does something a little strange, and I can believe you and me, that is strange.
Well, you have to have a sense of humour, I think, to ride a tough sport like this one. None of these cyclists here just decide that one day they'll be professional cyclists like they might go and be a bricklayer or a carpenter or a bank clerk. It's something you have to enjoy. You must ride your bike. You start out and then suddenly you discover you're a pretty good racing cyclist, and then it goes on from there and there and there and there. Look at this crowd too. It's been like this all the way through the villages and the small towns of the Tour de France yesterday and today. And it's amazing how they've turned out. We've had no hassle so far. We were rather concerned that there might be a lot of hassle as regards closing down the towns, but everybody's taken the Tour to their heart, and the valiant performance too of the breakaways yesterday and the breakaways today becomes utterly boring for the people when just one big bunch whistles through at around about 22 miles an hour. But when you see this sort of racing going on now, 4 men away, the crowd love to see it. We saw it yesterday and we saw it today. So the riders certainly have been giving us something to talk about, and the people something to talk about too, Stephen.
No, definitely. It's the crowds that are out on the roads. Yesterday was fantastic, but today is even like the word fantastic does not describe the way the people are out on the roads today. They're just everywhere. Talking to a Dutch journalist this morning, and his headlines in his papers were that in 1987 the crowds that turned out to see the Tour de France in Berlin and Holland. The year we went through 7 different countries in 87, there was crowds. It was incredible because the Tour never goes to Berlin, and never goes to Germany, never goes to any other place, except on very rare occasions. And the crowds that were out in those days, everyone said this was incredible, the best ever. The crowds are better here than they are even in France. Whereas journalists this morning were saying the crowds are better here in England than they were in Berlin and Holland in those 5-6 years ago. So you can see here from our cameras, like you couldn't get any more people in. It's incredible the number of people that are on the road.
What I also like is the way they put all this bunting out too, because and there we are. Look at the beautiful setup here. There's been fairs going as well. I went past one again today. They got the horse riding going on. They got a great sort of carnival atmosphere in the Tour, and they're decorating the towns. Certainly in France they do some decoration, but not quite as much as we're seeing here in Great Britain. Spare a thought too for the way in which the local authority have not only worked to close the roads, but here in getting out all these barriers to make sure that nobody gets in the way of the race, the planning that's gone on here, because we're dealing with a lot of spectators there, Bouncy Castle and Mr. Michelin himself to stand on the side of the road and welcome the riders through. The actual work that's gone on, the infrastructure has been formidable. I saw my good friend Brian Montgomery yesterday, and he said he sat in one of these tents at the finish, and there were 2 engineers, and one was from Kent and one was from East Sussex or something, and they were describing the road, how, well, this bit we had to fill in, and that's where we took a bollard away, and they're watching the race, they're watching the road all the way through to see what they've done for the riders to have a smooth transition, and they've done just that. They even had a man from the waterboard riding his bike over the drain hole covers to see if they were okay.
Now the interest here for the Tour de France in Britain has just been overall expectations. When you speak with Jean-Marie Depolon, who is the organiser, the managing director of the Tour de France, he's just sitting back, he just doesn't know what to say. Like he was talking, I spoke to him before we came across on the Eurotunnel the other day, and he was saying, Stephen, what do you think? Will it be okay? Will it be a success? Will it be up to our level, you know? Like right now he's ashamed. He's kind of not ashamed, but he runs when he sees me now, or when he sees Alan Royston, who is responsible for all the organisation here. He says, you know, it's just incredible. Like he came over to see the Tour of Britain last year that Alan Royston organises, and he said it was great. You know, maybe. We know Alan now. He's a very, very good organiser. Maybe he could organise a good the start of the Tour de France. He's very capable and very, very ambitious. So we think he could organise it, but never would have ever thought that Alan Royston and Sport for Television could have organised such a massive event.
And the speed now gathering momentum as the riders go after that breakaway group. Let me put you in the picture what has happened so far on this stage 5, Portsmouth to Portsmouth in the Tour de France. Or the moment, the Tour d'Angleterre, I suppose you might say. The breakaway group that hit the lead, they went away after 15 miles had been covered. That group then of Herve, Parini, Van Hooijdonk and Lieti. And they broke away just after the first climb had been taken inside the first 5 miles by Peter de Klerk. De Klerk went over the 4th category the Farlington Avenue climb, a nasty little sharp twisty one just ahead of Herman Frison. Herb was in 3rd spot. They really hammered along after that, and as they did so, Didier Roux got dropped off the back. He had a crash yesterday. He wasn't in very good form, and so he was struggling to stay with them this morning, so he was not able to hold the pace and drifted off on that first climb of the day. At Bishop Waltham, a long dragging climb. Herb, Perini and Van Hooijdonk and Lietti were away in the lead, and they took the climb in that order. Pascal Herb over in 1st place. On to Winchester, where they had the jesters out there jumping up and down in the town. They went past King Arthur's massive statue in the centre of Winchester, lovely, lovely old cathedral city. They went through there. Van Hooijdonk took the sprint ahead of Herb and Perini into 3rd spot. The next sprint they had was at Basingstoke, where the Lamprey rider Lietti took that one ahead of Van Hooijdonk from Word Perfect. Pascal Herb, the Facina rider, was 3rd. Perini for the ZG team was back into 4th spot. Rollins Castle, the sprint will be at 163 miles. These riders still out there at the moment, and there goes the time check, and they say showing 1:30 on the board at the moment. So it's come back down again. The biggest gap they got was at Basingstoke after 100 kilometres. That 60 miles had been covered. At the 60-mile point, the gap was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. My mistake, sorry about it. 49 kilometres, they had a 3-minute lead. 3 was the maximum advantage they had at 49 kilometres. And this when Van Hooijdonk, the best place in the group, was driving it on. He started this morning 2 minutes 20 seconds down on Van Zeller. Technically then he's been race leader on the road, but that lead has been whittled away by the efforts of the GBMG team. And the Lamprey rider here now get himself a bottle. Great disappointment, actually, as far as I was concerned, particularly, I suppose, all his supporters. So that Maurizio Fondra has had that trouble with his disc in his back, because to have seen him ride up, he's got a lot of support in England. It's a great shame that he's been sidelined right in the middle of the season, isn't it?
Definitely, like he has a slip disc in his back. It's the very same problem that I had last year when I was told that the only way of getting it cured would be to have an operation, and having an operation is no guarantee that it'll be cured. So well, that's why I said I wasn't going to have the operation. But Fondra is younger than myself and still has a little bit, his career still has lots more to come. So he decided he would have the operation, but unfortunately it's been taking him much longer than was expected to come back. He rode the Midi Libre 3 weeks ago and abandoned after 2 days, and he reckoned that he wouldn't have been at all on form for the Tour de France. But Fondra has been the professional that he is. I'm sure at this moment he's away training very, very hard, hoping to get back now for the NFC Seasons Classics with Tour de Lombardie, Grand Prix de San Sebastian, Paris Tours. I'm sure he's training for those last 4 or 5 classics now, and hoping to be in form and hopefully trying to save his season. But the Lamprey team without Maria Fondra is a bit of they've no real top men. So it's definitely for the flat, whereas Fondra would have been a good man for a stage win, or definitely he would have been up there in the final each day.
Lamprey then without their star performer. Pavel Tonkov is one of the young Russians that was tipped to make a very good professional career, and he's made some good progress too. He's their team leader at the moment. So the board going back to show the bunch what the gap is between them and the leaders, and GBMG seem to be quite happy now. They've done a useful job and have just held that deficit so that the yellow jersey sits firmly still on the shoulders of Van Zeller. When they come down the finishing straight, though, we have to be careful about the bonuses, because Van Zeller has 4 seconds lead over Johan Museeuw. Museeuw is the fastest sprinter of the two, but I don't think, in fact, he'll have much chance or would like to really contest the sprint with people like Abdul Jafarov, because we've been seeing some pretty hectic sprints so far, and of course none worse than one at Armentières when that massive crash sidelined both Jalabert and at the same time took out Wilfried Nellison. Ludwig, of course, is the man who's going to be sprinting most of all with Abdul Jafarov, and I've just wondered whether Museeuw might like to go in there, because bonuses are 20, 12 and 8 seconds. It could put Museeuw back in the yellow jersey, but the risk might be too great.
Well, that's it. Museeuw is better. He feels better in it now that he's gotten on a little bit. He feels better in a small group sprint. But once again, I'm sure if he could try and get the yellow jersey today, I'm sure he'd prefer to take it today than wait for tomorrow, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. And the longer he leaves it, the more closer we're getting to the mountains. And it's definitely in the mountains, he's not going to get it in the mountains to get the yellow jersey. So I'm sure he'll be in there having a go for the yellow jersey today. I cannot personally see Van Zeller having a go, because with him not being a real genuine sprinter, I think he might kind of say to himself, well, if I go for the sprint today, well then, and Johann's on the far side, you can imagine if the two of them fell. wouldn't be any good to anybody. So they have to be the ideal teammates and say, well, okay, I've had my go, I have my yellow jersey, so leave Muccio do and see what he can do. And if Muccio doesn't get in the first three, well, at least he holds on. Vanzella will hold his jersey for another day. So I cannot see the two of them making the sprint. One of them should make the sprint, definitely. But the two of them, I think that it would be too risky for them to make it.
Well, of course, the honour of having the yellow jersey is enough to spur on people to try and get the thing off the shoulders, but the whole thing will change dramatically when we get into mountains. The one thing I like about the Tour is the way in which you get the flatter stage early on, with just a few little climbs in it, and then one lot of riders begin to show, and then suddenly you get in the mountain, another lot of riders begin to show, and the thing therefore becomes a rolling, changing story for some of the, like 3 weeks of the race. There's something different every day going on, and every rider in there hoping he can just get a little bit of the action in some way that will get sponsorship for him the following year, because this is the time of the year when they're all looking at the contracts for the riders, and some are contracted next year, some aren't, so they want to show good in the Tour de France, the biggest showpiece as far as the bike rider is concerned, to get publicity. And what have we here? Was that Dagotto Lauritsen?
No.
No, it's a bit too big for me. That's so good. Whoa! He went round there a bit sharpish, didn't he?
Certainly did. He's really going for it. But we don't really know. We cannot see from our from the camera here from where he actually is. It's difficult for us to know if he's behind the front group, if he's only a little bit ahead of the second group. We don't really know where he is.
He's just off the front, actually, between the big group here and the leader. And it's Bert Voskamp that's gone away, one of the new riders in the TVM team. So he certainly decided now to have a go at this one, and he's strung the field out quite considerably. But will he succeed in this one? He's still in sight at the moment, but there's a lot of twisty roads before we get down into Portsmouth, and then it's dead flat. The run-in is very flat, and on the road alongside the seafront, they come straight into a very strong headwind. If they choose to look to the left when they come down that finishing straight, they'll see the choppy waters, and across the choppy waters you can see the Isle of Wight, and you can see the forts out there in the middle as well of the estuary here. And this little short sharp hill, it wasn't even classified on one of our climbs. I think they'd be surprised with this one here, because they've got about 40 kilometres or so to go from the finish. I'll just have a quick check at where we'd like to be going through. It's narrow one. This one is very short, sharp indeed.
Best 30 kilometres to go at the moment.
Pardon?
The best 30 kilometres to go at the moment.
Yeah, well, there we are.
So
they must have just gone through Petersfield, that main top shot then. I didn't see the sign, but they're now coming back into West Sussex then. And this sharp little climb, Perini on the front. As you said earlier on, Stephen, he certainly does a lot of work. He went up the top of that climb, really started to push this little break along, and push some more time between them and the chasing group.
Perini is a rider who will keep riding on the front, and you see him, he's calling the other riders through here now because he feels that he's doing too much. But Perini, when you're in a group in the front with Perini, you can always count on him to ride. He's not a kind of rider who will sit on the back. It's even happened, I've even seen him on different occasions when his team, the last 2 years, he wasn't riding the same team as me. He was riding with the ZG team. His team director would come up and say, hey, Giancarlo, stop riding now. And once the car was going back to the bunch again, Giancarlo Perini would start riding again in the front, because he used to feel embarrassed not to be riding. He used to love being in the front and riding, but he always said that there's no point in being in the front if you're not going to ride. So once the team car was gone, he'd be back riding in the front again. You can see the hill here, actually, I think the hill here is actually
well, having thought of that that way that the little group ahead just went up soon, the last time check we got was 1 minute and 40 seconds, and I've got a suspicion now it's coming down nearer to the minute. Voskamp on the front still trying to get away. The yellow jerseys powering up towards the top of this one too, showing very good strength is the yellow jersey, and they've caught Voskamp back again. And I didn't put a watch on this little climb here, but I suspect it's getting closer to the minute now. If
I see the Pulte team coming to the front now. Well, coming to the front, or just riding in the front, I don't know, but I myself will be waiting for some kind of reaction from the Pulte team once again to help Abdul Jabbar off, because the finish here in Portsmouth is a finish ideal for Abdul Jabbar off. But you must remember also the wind here coming to Portsmouth will be incredible.
It could sit in two. It's a very flat run-in. It's a very wide one as well. There's no twists and turns, so we should see them coming into sight before long, but certainly the sprinters will have to get that group back at the front. So who's going to pull them back? Well, we're going to take a short break. GBMG have stopped chasing. Come back to see what happens in just a couple of minutes. The chase is on to pull back that deficit. It's now around about 1 minute and 20 seconds. The lead that Van Hooijdonk, Pascal Herb and Porini and Leati had. The greatest advance was at 3 minutes advance at 49 kilometres, but the hammer has really come down as they get further and further in towards the finish. The road becomes flatter and flatter, and that will certainly suit a very vicious chase in the bunch, but it's not coordinated by any one team at the moment at all, is it?
No, at the moment, apparently, the MG riders apparently taking a backseat role now for the moment. The gap is down now so little, around the 1 minute and 10, 1 minute 20 seconds. So the GB riders know now that the jersey normally is theirs for one more day, but they're waiting for somebody else to come along, the Telecom riders or the Pulsar riders or the Motorola or the GAN riders. Some other teams take up the chase now. I just saw a few minutes ago the GAN riders, Jean-Claude Colotti and two other GAN riders are very, very prominent now in the front. I'm just wondering, would it be a tactic for maybe to try and launch Chris Boardman towards the end? Like Chris made a great demonstration last night that he has an incredible turn of speed and he can hold on for 3-4 kilometers. So if the GAN riders can pull the full group back, for example, in the last 2 or 3 kilometers, Chris could have a go. And with the wind the way it is blowing at the moment, if Chris had put himself in the gutter, it would have been crosswind. Nobody would get around him. So I wonder myself, would that be a tactic that the GAN riders have in their up the sleeve for today?
Well, certainly yesterday, going on the front at Brighton with very similar conditions. Actually, this is a lot flatter run-in than it was yesterday. He had a strong wind then, and they just couldn't get to him, so you're quite right, Steve. It'd be marvellous to see, wouldn't it?
Well, today is actually a crosswind. Yesterday was more of a headwind, so it was more difficult for Chris to stay away, because some rider can get in his wheel and stay there and maybe come off his wheel and the finish. But today would have been a crosswind from the sea. It means it's very, very hard. If you can imagine the wind coming from the sea and from the left-hand side of the road, Chris had put himself in the right-hand gutter, as we call it, riding very close to the right-hand barrier, meaning that if anybody wants to come past them, to get shelter, must go past on the right-hand side. Whereas if Chris closes the door, keeping it very tight into the barriers, the man behind him cannot come off his wheel unless he comes off into the wind. So this could be a little move by the GAN riders. We're hoping that maybe if Chris is having a good day, he might be able to use this turn of speed that he has to take off in the final.
Well, they haven't got a climb like we had yesterday up Ditchling Beacon, where Chesterton's put up a special prize on behalf of the Ditchling residents for the Ditchling Cup, as they called it, for the first rider to go over the top, and that went to that Kelmy rider who did a fantastic ride yesterday, Caballero, to win the stage. That was a first for him, and so he was very pleased indeed. And the Spanish went absolutely mad above us, and they were all jumping up and down, our friends from Colombia and from Brazil and Mexico, and they all went absolutely crazy upstairs with that victory yesterday, and I'm sure they celebrated last night. Not a Kelmy jersey in sight at the moment. Their little sprinter, their best man, a fellow called Ido, who had a couple of seconds, or sorry, a second and a couple of fourths in the Tour of Spain earlier this year, so he will be in there hovering as well. So the sprinters now must realise they have a chance, providing that gap comes down. What was it last time? 1:11. It was 1:40 before. So the tactics then are going to play straight into the hands of Chris Boardman, the GAN team, because they wouldn't be looked upon as a team to go for the sprint, but certainly if they close that gap down. But he's not the only one, because Ekimov can do the same thing. He can go over the last sort of 3 kilometres or so. Van Hooijdonk, Maas and those two, they always be able to do it, didn't they, as well? So there's a number of riders who, 2 to 3 kilometres out, can still explode off the front.
They can, but unfortunately, the last couple of years, the last 2 years, Ekimov seems to have lost a lot of this kind of incredible class that he has. He hasn't been able to get it together in the final for almost about 2 years, and he hasn't done a really good thing in the final. But there are a lot of riders that are capable of jumping away, the likes of Jesper Skibby. We saw a minute ago Rob Hermerling riding on their front for the TVM team. He, I'm sure, is not riding in their front just for to get fresh air. I'm sure he's riding in their front hoping that he can bring the gap down, and maybe Jesper Skibby can have a go in the final. But there's surely a lot of riders in there capable of taking off.
Well, the other rider too.
That's Lauritsen, I think.
Sorry?
Lauritsen is taking off.
Yeah, the other rider as well that's capable of sprinting well for TVM, Johan Capio, but he got really bashed about in that crash in Armentières, so perhaps he's still recovering from that. Dago to Lauritsen. on the front. He said he wanted to try and get a stage victory. This is the man who, I'll repeat the story again, in fact, that he was selected to ride up to the Wednesday before the Tour start, then told by Case Preem that he was not riding. And in fact, this is the climb they're going up now, where in the Kellogg's Pro Tour last year, they came up this hill. It was at the start of the Kellogg's Pro Tour, and this man you're looking at now, Dakar and went on to win the stage into Coventry, the long lone breakaway. Well, he was riding the Tour de France up to Wednesday of last week. Then he was told by his team manager he wasn't, that Tunisia was taking his place. There was a bit of political machinations going on, and then he decided to paint his house for a couple of days, relax and wait the tour was over, and got back on the Saturday night to find a fax to say, pack your bags and come on down. He caught the 6 o'clock plane from Oslo after having no sleep, and here he is on the front of this one. He said to me this morning he's feeling quite strong, he's getting back in the act of things, and looking for the racing and hoping to get a stage. Well, not going to be his at the moment. They've got him back up that climb, and the other long chap too, especially going away, is Phil Anderson. He's looking very fit too.
Phil is going very well at the moment. As you see, the Motorola riders in the front. It looks like Ralph Alcala. Is it? Looks like Ralph, yeah. And but at the moment, the attacks now are multiplying at the moment. Everybody knows that the final is going to be very, very hard with the wind coming in from the side. So everybody wants to try to get as far as they can to the front. But it's amazing for the moment. Nobody has actually taken on the role of defending for a sprinter. I thought by now the Poultry riders or the Telegram riders would have come through. As we just saw, the team cars parked on the left-hand side of the road there. Their team cars would have been behind the Breakaway group in the front. And the Breakaway, those cars are stopped when the Breakaway is down to 40 seconds. So the group now is down to 40 seconds. So you see Abdu Japarov here on the front. This is a bit of a strange move now by Abdu, because he's nothing at all to gain from riding on the front like that, except maybe losing a bit of energy. But I would have thought he would have been trying to stay in the wheels as covered up as possible until we came into the last 500 metres.
Fortification, just had a quick look at them up on the hillside overlooking the naval town of Portsmouth, and my goodness, to think that Australia might get one here, because we've got yet another attempt going off here. The long flowing locks of the Onse rider going off the front at the moment, and that is Neil Stevens from Australia, but he's gone up to Abdu Japarov. Abdu amazingly still punching away on the front here. This is actually crazy tactics, Stephen.
It's crazy, but he may know that the wind is changing, and he wants to have it strung out as long as possible when he hit the real wide open road where the wind is blowing in from the sea. If it is strung out and he gets a couple of guys really willing to have a go, the group can split, and Abdu can find himself in a small group of 10, 12 riders. And of course, Abdu, if he comes into a group of 10 or 12 riders, he's every chance of winning. So he's possibly has that in his mind.
Certainly a few weeks ago, Abdu won a stage in an event. I forget which one it was now, or an actual race. He went away with about 1,000 kilometres to go, and he deliberately said after he did it, because everybody said he was a wheel sucker. He was only a good sprinter in the last sort of 50 metres. He just stayed on the wheels and came up and rushed and got the thing. So he went away deliberately to show people he could also do a long ride and get a stage. Right, so today he looks like he's trying to do a somewhat similar thing. But
well, he can do the same, but like today, with the wind the way it is today, and the final, it'll suit him down to the ground. But Abdu is a rider who always uses big gears in the sprint. He always uses 12, nearly always uses 12. So he's with the wind in the face, so Ludwig might be a more supple kind of a sprinter. So he's not possibly afraid that if he comes down to the line with Ludwig might beat him. But just at the same time as I'm talking, I'm thinking of Van Poppel, who's also a very supple sprinter, and which was the sprint today will suit Van Poppel as well. But maybe Abdu Japarov is a little bit afraid. Maybe he's not 100% sure of himself, knowing that the wind is so strong today. So he wouldn't mind trying to get away in a group of 15, 20 riders to make it more easy for him to try to win here in Portsmouth.
Abdu Japarov stage victor in the Kellogg's Pro Tour back in '92. Well remembered by the Brits then, but also many of us who watched him in the milk race some years ago, sprinting, I think about 1986 it was, and he won a stage into Harrogate then in the milk race, and that was when I noticed first of all his famous swerving sprint as he cuts in from left to right as you're in the main bunch, or if you're looking down the finishing straight from right to left. He won 2 stages in the Tour de France in 1991, and he won 3 stages in '93, and so will he get another stage to add to the one he's already got this year here in Portsmouth. The Tour of Italy won a stage this year as well. So Abdu's always nipping in and getting himself a stage victory, but his best classic victory to date so far was against Wevelgem, which he won in 1991. So that was a bloke in green, just giving a bit of a build-up there. Marvellous man. He actually keeps racing pigeons as a hobby, and speaks a lot of Italian, where he's based all the time. And another very deep-thinking man. He's actually a Muslim by religion, and last I heard was living with his sister. But he's a very interesting character. Do you have much time to speak to him in your time, actually, Steve? Because he's strikes a very deep person, a very kind sort of person beneath all his drop and top when it comes to sprinting.
He is very, very quiet. It's very difficult to get inside him, but he's very, very good. As you see Gianni Bugno here riding in the front for the Pulsar team. Abdul's team, he's actually calling up his teammates. So the Pulsar team now are going to take on the responsibility of chasing down the last 45 seconds of the breakaway group.
And the gap is down to 25 seconds. They'll have them clearly inside that breakaway group, because we'll certainly be down off this hill before long and onto flat roads running in towards Portsmouth. And you can see how dead straight these dual carriageways are. The main field will soon have these four leaders in sight. The chase is on, the Pulte team on the front for Abdul Jafarov in the green jersey. The gap coming down all the time, and they'll be able to just turn this corner and see down this lovely dual carriageway the four leaders desperately trying to hang on to that lead which they had. A quick rundown on what has happened today. Over the first climb of the day on this Portsmouth-Portsmouth stage of 117 miles. De Klerk took the first climb after 5 miles. The breakaway group went after some 14 miles. And over the second climb of the day, Pascal Herb took the victory. The gap down to 19 seconds now. And then the riders went through Winchester. Van Hooijdonk took the sprint there. That was the maximum lead they had of 3 minutes. Basingstoke, Lieti took the sprint. Then at Rowlands Castle, the sprint went to Perini. And now coming in towards Portsmouth, out there in the harbour, the ship's marooned on the mud. But these riders are stuck in no man's land, because the field coming up to them can see them, and they've got to decide now whether to persist with it or sit up and go back and just say, well, we tried and we failed. It is so disappointing for them after going away after just some 14 miles. They've now been out there for something like about 90 miles and coming in on this straight road. There they are, and the crowd appreciating their efforts, but the bunch still steamrolling along behind them. I suppose what they're going to hope for, Stephen, is that the bunch will just sit up and say, we've got them, and let them continue.
Well, and they're very disappointed men at the moment, I'm sure. When they got away, I'm sure they were saying to themselves, well, it's not very... There's no way we go to the finish. And then once they get 4 or 5 minutes, then they say to themselves, well, maybe we can get away. And then all of a sudden in the final, then they just get the time checks coming down from the car, and you've always got right down from 5 down to 0. And of course, everybody hopes they can get to the end, get to the finish first, right on to the end. But this is one more time Perini won't win a stage after giving everything he has for the last 160 kilometres, as the bunch comes up here with Bugno leading it through.
So Perini in the yellow for ZG absorbed. The blue colours, the Word Perfect rider Van Hooijdonk also absorbed. The Lamprey colours, pink and blue, also absorbed then as the edge has been pulled back in, and the bluish colours as the Festina rider Hervé has now gone in as well.
As we see the German telecom team bringing through Ludwig here on the left-hand side of our screen. The wind is blowing now from the left, so that's just why everyone now is in on the right-hand gutter.
Well, the wind is gusting across our commentary point, and can we see if we can lift up a little bit here, the plastic bit, Stephen, because we're going to have to watch this sprint. We get a very good picture on our television. It's great to be working in Portsmouth here in Britain, the second of the 2 stages in Great Britain, and now the riders coming on in towards the finish, and we'll be able to look out of our commentary point down the finishing straight to see them thundering along here. It's a very, very good straight run in, and a massive crowd again have turned up to see the action today. And the Pulte riders doing a marvellous job here to first of all pull back that 4-man group, and now we've just 10 kilometres to go. That's just on 6 miles ahead of these riders. So we're looking probably for about no more than 11 minutes of racing into the finish to see who's going to win the second of the British stages. Yesterday, an absolutely superb ride by Francesco Capello of Kelme, who had the greatest ride of his life, the biggest success he's ever had to win the stage into Brighton. This big field now streaming along, and the British viewers who yesterday saw them fragmented on that climb at Ditchling Beacon and up Elm Grove Avenue, watched them come in penny numbers, the leading people, with Boardman in that wonderful fourth spot. And now going to be witness to what was likely to be a thumping great sprint. Keep your fingers crossed then we don't have any crashes like we had before, but it's a very, very flat run-in, a very, very wide run-in, and that should benefit the sprinters. The tactics, therefore, the lead-out men working hard, the sprinters sitting in there. Running down on the sprinters that we've got to look out for and the colours they're wearing. Abdul Japarov wears the green as a leader on the points. Every day they go across the line, the positions are counted and they're awarded points, and the green jersey goes to the man with the best points score. So that's Abdul Japarov in the green jersey as a points victor. The other man then to look out for in the sprint is Ludwig. He wears a pink and white coloured jersey for the telecom team, and I'm just looking back to see where he's got to there. But at the moment, Stephen, the top men are keeping out of trouble with the crashes, aren't they?
They have to stay in the front now. As I was saying earlier on, the bring a side wind, there's always a danger of the group getting split up or having a crash. So the top men will always try to stay in the front or as near to the front as possible. As you see here on the screen, a group off the back. They're possibly off the back because they got caught in the back of the group and crossing the crosswind. So as you see Gerard Rui there on the right hand side of your screen, it's actually his birthday today. He's 29 today, but he's had a bad fall the other day in Armand chair and hurt his back, so it's unfortunate for him.
I've noticed one of the Kelme riders moving up towards the front. Ado of Kelme is a very good sprinter.
What am I saying? They could split there in the front.
Yep.
There in the front.
And this is the Castorama team at the back then, starting to work hard, and the GAN as well moving up. Where's Boardman? Is he in the front group or the back? If you see from the helicopter shot, looking down in there to have a look for the numbers, the number of Chris Boardman from the top shot, if you look down, is 82. If you and your televisions could spot 82, as a little bit blurred here as usual, and so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 40, see about 20 riders have prized themselves off the front. One of the Motorola riders has made it across there, and there the Kelme rider, that's Ado. 89 in there for, that's Eddie Senior for GAN. 8 in there at the moment is Gerard Rui. Just behind there in the pink jersey, number 64, is Laurent Dufaux.
But with Gerard Rui being in the front, and I was saying it was his birthday, I thought he was off the back, but it's his birthday today, so if he could finish in the front, it'd be a great birthday present for himself.
Look, it's off the back, not the front.
I'm going to stop talking there. I'm going to stop talking. It's terrible.
Oh dear. Well, we all make mistakes. I was busy making my notes here, and we've got ourselves in all sorts of trouble. I apologise about that. The field is all together. The big bunch at the front and behind are the splintered remainders who are chasing the triangle. So you're quite right. That's why Rui was at the back. He was struggling. He wasn't up the front, and that's resolved the problem. So this field has split on the run-in towards the finish. Those lads at the back will be desperately trying to close the gap, and the big bunch now with about 8 kilometres to go. Running down on the sprint favourites, Abdul Japarov in the green for the Pulte team. The Pulte team are leading him out now in these yellow jerseys with the green stripes, which one of the riders said it made them look like frogs. Well, they're jumping about now to try and keep the speed up and keep Abdul Japarov in the green jersey and take the stage into Portsmouth. The other colours to look out for, John Paul Pumpopple, who's also got a stage victory under his belt. He rides for the Festina team. That's very much a bluish coloured jersey that he'll have around his shoulders. The pink jersey with the white colours as well, pink and white, with lots of white and not much pink. That's the Telecom, and that will be Abdul Japarov. Sorry, it will be Ludwig trying to challenge Abdul Japarov in the sprint. Johan Capio wears the TVM colours. They've got sort of bluey and reddish sleeves, but mainly a yellow jersey behind that. He's quite also a useful sprinter. And this young lad, Ado, is in the Kelmy colours, green shorts and a green and white top to it as well, striped. We saw it yesterday on the shoulders of Caballero, who won the stage. Ado, a very young rider, he's in the young riders classification, is an extremely good sprinter. We don't see many top Spanish sprinters. We'll be looking for him too, positioned at the front when they come thundering down the line. But still, Polte doing a marvellous job here, and we've not seen anything of Telecom. We always seem to leave it a bit late to come through.
They do, but at the moment they're still they're not sure of Ludwig. For the moment, Ludwig hasn't won a stage. He's been riding very, very well, but hasn't actually won a stage. So until a rider actually wins a stage, their teammates don't have confidence, because they say, well, we're going to ride our eyeballs out for this guy, he's not going to win. So it's only when you win a stage that you get full confidence of the team, and the team will be behind you then. So if, for example, Ludwig had won a stage, I'm sure by now, for the last 5 or 10 kilometres, so the whole Telecom team would have been in the front. So this is why we have not seen them possibly. But when someone else is riding in the front, why should they come along? So at the moment they're making the most of the fact that Polte are riding in the front for Abdul Jabarov.
The damage being done to the chasers will have a great deal of difficulty. See there, the washing blowing all over the place. Lovely day to put your washing out, missus, but as far as the rider's concerned, a gusty sort of day for the tour coming into Portsmouth. Tonight, when the race is finished, we're going to climb on to one of the 5 Brittany ferries that are taking us across the channel. We'll be sleeping on the boat tonight. There are 5 kilometres to go. Brittany ferries, who first brought the riders over to Plymouth 20 years ago when Henk Pop won the stage, and Barry Hoban was riding that year, would like to win in front of the British public, but didn't do it in the sprint finish. Barry, who won 8 stages in the Tour de France, here amongst the audience today, as is Brian Robinson, Tony Hoare, Vin Denson, Jock Andrews, Barry Hoban, Colin Lewis, Hugh Paul, all that lot, many other riders from the Tour de France days. The Brits have managed to do it, have come down here, and tremendous interest. I was talking to Graham Brax, who runs sporting tours with coaches, and he said he's got 25 coaches on the go this year in the Tour, taking Brits to see the Tour in one place or another. That's double what he did last year. So it must be down to Boardman, who sat back in this group, allowing the Polte team to do the work all at the front still. Well,
as I was saying earlier on, they'll find the last 5 kilometres an awful lot of head crosswind. There's Injuren here riding up in the very front. We see Capucci there also. But the Polte team are stuck right in the right-hand gutter, meaning that if anybody wants to come past, has got to come past in the wind. This is a very, very good tactic used by Belgium years and years ago in the Classics. So you see the Telecom team coming up here, but if you see when they're coming to the front, they got to come up through the front in the wind. If you see the Telecom riders here coming through with Lance Armstrong, everyone that wants to come to the front has to come through in the wind. It's also very dangerous when you're behind. When you're behind, all these riders here, it's very, very dangerous, because it starts switching from side to side. So you're better in the front if you can.
And Boardman sat further back from this little lot. He's not a sprinter, he's perhaps hoping for the speed to drop and to do a lightning burst off the front, but they're travelling now probably around about 35 miles an hour, with this wind causing a great deal of problems, and Uchakov's making some signs to somebody up in front to get out of the way. I don't know if one has to have a motorcycle camera there. There's the pink colours of the German team just on the front at the moment. 131, that's Ludwig in the... So 137. I'm watching for Ludwig to come through. He's got a silver crash hat on. If you look amongst there, you can see now just the top left-hand corner of the screen, and that is Van Poppel just behind him. Amazing Indurain coming through.
He's riding up on his own. It's amazing that he hasn't got a teammate with him at the moment to bring him through in the wind, because he's actually riding face on into the wind. But he's a very, very strong rider, so he can afford to do it. But the important thing is not to get boxed in at this moment.
Yeah. Stephen Hodge just going through. Looks like he's the lead-out man for Van Poppel. A lot of top men here. Look, the Polte riders, one or two, they begin to drift off. The pace has been too high.
That's the problem now.
Team versus team, haven't you?
That's the problem now. The Polte riders have been riding in the front so long now. The Jabber was back here on the very right-hand corner of your screen.
Oh,
maybe it's too far back. He's getting boxed in now for the moment.
Like 14 times. Well, Polte on the left, Telecom in the middle, then Motorola next to them, and on the outside there's another team coming up. TVM. So look at that. TVM, Motorola, Telecom.
I see a Lotto attacking him on the right-hand side of the road. This is the right would have thought Boardman would have done it. Boardman would have jumped into the right-hand gutter and ridden his eyeballs out down to the finish, or tried to ride down, hold them off to the finish, because it's actually, is it Frizon? Herman Frizon, no?
And
no, it's not actually. No, it's not. We didn't get a number on it. It looked like Frizon, Herman Frizon.
It is,
Herman Frizon. I was right, yeah.
Right.
So
we'll give you a badge back.
Very good. A very good finisher as well, Herman Frizzon. You see him stuck on the right-hand corner. You will ask yourself, why is he on the right-hand side of the road and not on the left-hand side of the road? For the simple reason that the wind is blowing in from the left. So anybody who wants to catch him must ride into the wind.
And one by one, the lead-out men are being blown out and leaving the sprinters with just one each in front. And Ludwig now is finding himself in second spot. And Abdul Jafrov was boxed a long way back, but he must be calculating that he can just hang on and hope for it. Gavis Balan begin to go flat out on the front as well now. Perini's come up on the inside. And so
Mussio is there also. Mussio is lying in third place.
And looking back down there, where's the green jersey of Abdul Jafrov? He's not in the top 15 at the moment. This is sheer brinkmanship from a sprinter to know exactly what is going. ZG Mobley going yet again. Has he caught them napping?
Is it Giotto?
Was it Martinelli? No, it's Martinelli. We'll have to wait and see on this one. Can't figure out at the moment. But ZG Mobley having a bit of a crack at the front.
He's using the crowds on the left-hand side of the road to break the wind for him.
Most likely probably to be someone like Fontanelli as well, because he's very active in the sprints at the end. Henrik Redon is another very strong man from the ZG team who would love these sort of conditions.
Look at the lead out that the telecom team are giving to Ludwig.
Still doing it beautifully, aren't they?
Ludwig is now in second place, though.
Yeah, and there's the
You see the third guy going up around Ludwig. You see him here on the screen now, pushing Ludwig out to third place, giving him a good lead out. But the important thing is that there's a third man, so Ludwig now is fourth place. He has Mussio on his wheel. But Ludwig has to have as many lead-out men as he can in front of him to wind up the speed as fast as he can.
Pumping the Chazelle rider out of him, and that fellow just behind the Chazelle colour, that sort of bright pinky and yellow colour, that's Martinelli down there for the Mercatone Uno team, that sort of pale coloured blue with a bit of yellow on it. So he's just sitting in behind the main contenders for the sprint today. Museo in there with...
I can see the telecom riders pulling off and down to the back.
Look who's here. Abdul Jafrov's come up as well. He's made it. What brinkmanship to get up there.
Too far back. He's too far back.
You think he's too far back now then?
Yeah,
well, he's still sitting in there. He's going past riders who'll be peeling off the front, having done their work. He's still sat in there at the moment, Abdul Jafrov. But Telecom doing all the work on the front, and the silver crash helmet of Ludwig nicely placed.
He might do it. We aren't getting into the last 500 kilometres, so he still might be able to come through.
They're coming now into the finishing straight. The crowd beginning to stand up in the grandstands to get an even better view. Abdul Jafrov has moved in nicely. He's got the Kelmy rider Ado behind him at the moment, and Capio going on the left-hand side of Farway over there.
Abdul is there.
Still Vanzella having a big dig as well. Abdul Jafrov comes off his wheel. Abdul switches across, but Telecom have led out Ludwig fine, and Abdul Jafrov is boxed all over the place. He's coming straight over to Ludwig. He's on Ludwig's wheel. Martinelli is coming through as well. Ludwig and Martinelli are fighting out the line, and I think Martinelli might have got it from Ludwig. In fact, no, it wasn't. It was the Gris Bellan rider in the centre. Martinelli was on the right-hand side, and Ludwig was on the left-hand side, and suddenly, whoop, across the line. That was a fantastic sprint. Well.
What a stage. 43 kilometres an hour for the stage.
And they all arrived safe and sound. They were switching, jumping, twitching, and I was just holding my breath to see, in fact, who it was going to be across that line, because it was so close indeed the way that Abdul Jafrov went across, came back, and then Ludwig kept surging forward, and Martinelli came up, and in the end it was the Gavis Bellan rider. Well, the best sprinter they've got there is Guido Bontempi, but I'm afraid that I didn't get his numbers. He flashed across in front of us, Stephen. I apologise for that. I was looking more at the known sprinters, and I apologise for the fact that I missed that one, so that's a back mark for me. I missed who got it.
As you see, two riders here that were dropped coming in the road, finishing the line, crossing the line now. But if any of you were watching earlier on, you might have seen the Vanessa riders with a red, like a red scarf on her neck. As you go back to the finish here, I'll leave you back to that, David.
Right. Far side is Ludwig. Inside is the Gavis Bellan one. Martinelli here on the nearest to us. Lamprey coming up on the far side is Abdul Jafrov Greek, completely out of its way. Certainly went to Gavis Bellan rider, and Martinelli nearest to us here, and Ludwig on the far side had him sandwiched neatly between them. Abdul Jafrov probably got fourth space just ahead of the Lotto rider. Sorry, yes, the Lamprey rider. There we are. So a very close sprint indeed. Abdu, I'm sure, left it far too late. Van Poppel coming in here, and again a front view of that one. There was no flicking here, no twitching, just all straight out. This is what the sprinters like, isn't it? That surge. It's a bit like a Kieran race, so they all have a go at the line.
They do. It's a very, very clean sprint. It was very good today. But I was going back to again the reason why the Banessa riders are riding this red scarf around their neck is because most of the Banessa riders come from a town called Pamplona. That's where Mikel Indurain comes from. And in Pamplona today, they have what they call a Saint Firmin. And the Saint Firmin is where they put the bulls into a ring in the morning and early hours of the morning, and at night time they let them out onto the streets, and they must go from one part of town to the other. And the bulls run through the streets amongst all the people, and it's up to yourself to get out of the way.
So they're probably just safer in that sprint here than dashing around trying to keep out of the bull.
We're better off here commentating, David.
Well, I don't know. Well, we've had a few problems today, and we had a few problems yesterday when we had to do the commentary by telephone. I apologise if the sound wasn't up to our usual standard, but we did the best we could in the circumstances. An action replay yet again of the finish here with the silver helmet of Ludwig, ex-Olympics champion of the road, superb sprinter on something like about 33 stayed in the peace race, could not get it because he went to the Gavest-Bellan rider in the centre, and on the right hand side in the pale blue that went to Martinelli.